Water surged through my workshop door at midnight, ruining 30 years of my father's tools. And Karen, HOA president, smiled from her porch, watching. "You should have read the bylaws," she said, sipping wine, as sawdust turned to sludge and my life's work drowned before my eyes. "I'm Sam Whitfield, 42, a furniture maker in Cedar Ridge Estates, raising my daughter alone since my wife passed 3 years ago. My workshop sat behind my house for a decade, inherited from my father, predating the HOA's strict no visible structures rule entirely. Karen Voss became HOA president last spring, obsessed with property values, uniformity, and her precious golf course view from the clubhouse. She'd already fined 3 neighbors for mailbox colors, unmowed lawns, and a birdbath she called an eyesore ruining the neighborhood's aesthetic. I stayed quiet, paid my dues, kept my workshop tidy, hoping to avoid her radar while building custom cabinets for local clients. Then Karen noticed my workshop's tin roof glinting in sunlight, visible from the 17th hole, and demanded I paint it immediately. I explained the roof was grandfathered in, older than the HOA charter. But Karen waved my paperwork away, unconvinced and irritated. "Rules are rules," she snapped, slapping a violation notice on my door, threatening daily fines until I complied with her demands. I appealed to the board, but 2 members owed Karen favors, and my appeal vanished into unexplained bureaucratic silence for weeks. Meanwhile, Karen began routing sprinkler complaints and noise reports my way, building a paper trail to justify whatever came next. Fines piled up weekly, $200 each, though I'd broken no rule that existed when my workshop was built. I hired a lawyer, who confirmed my grandfather clause held, but litigation would cost more than the fines themselves combined. Karen escalated, sending contractors to inspect my property line, measuring distances she later misquoted in her violation reports. My daughter asked why Mrs. Voss hated us, and I had no honest answer that wouldn't scare an 8-year-old. Neighbors whispered that crossing Karen meant losing your parking spot, your pool access, even your kid's clubhouse birthday party. I noticed drainage work near my property, unmarked trucks digging trenches, though no permit notice had ever been posted publicly. Karen claimed it was routine maintenance for the golf course, but the trenches pointed suspiciously toward my workshop's foundation. That week, my basement flooded for the first time in 10 years, water pooling exactly where those new trenches ended. I photographed everything: the trenches, the water lines, the suspicious new drainage grate installed feet from my back fence. Karen denied responsibility publicly, blaming unprecedented rainfall, though records showed that month was drier than the previous 3 years. My neighbor Doug, quietly sympathetic, admitted he'd seen Karen's husband directing the construction crew himself. Late one evening, I confronted Karen at a board meeting, showing photos, but she accused me of harassment and had security escort me out. The board, intimidated, sided with Karen, ruling my complaint unsubstantiated without reviewing a single photograph I'd submitted. I filed with the county, but bureaucratic delays meant months before anyone would even schedule a site inspection. Meanwhile, fines against me tripled, now threatening a lien against my house if I didn't pay within 30 days. I started documenting obsessively, timestamps, video, witness statements, sensing I'd need real evidence before this got worse. Karen's smugness grew. She bragged at a garden party that difficult owners always eventually sold and moved away quietly. Then, oddly, the harassment paused for 2 weeks. No new notices, no tracks. Almost as if Karen had lost interest. I used the quiet to reinforce my workshop's foundation, adding drainage of my own, bracing for whatever came next. Doug mentioned Karen was busy prepping for the county's annual Beautiful Communities inspection, desperate for Cedar Ridge to win again. I almost believed things might settle down, that maybe Karen had realized she'd overstepped and would finally back off. The calm shattered when a storm hit, and Karen's drainage system redirected the entire runoff straight into my workshop. 3 feet of water destroyed my table saw, my father's antique planer, and 6 custom orders worth thousands of dollars. I called Karen immediately. She didn't answer, but posted online that some homeowners simply build in flood-prone areas. Furious, I drove to the golf course and discovered the trench system fed directly from the course's private irrigation lines. An engineer I hired confirmed the grading had been illegally altered, funneling water away from the course, toward my property. Turns out Karen's husband owned the construction company that built it, an undisclosed conflict of interest. Clearly, I gathered permits, county records, and engineering reports, building an actual case instead of just angry accusations. Karen struck first, suing me for property damage to the golf course fence, claiming my complaints caused reputational harm. The lawsuit felt absurd, but it terrified me. Legal fees could bankrupt a small business owner like myself easily. My daughter cried when strangers left nasty notes on our door, calling us troublemakers who hated the community. I nearly gave up, drafting a letter to sell the house and leave Cedar Ridge behind entirely, defeated. Then Doug called, shaking, saying he'd found something in old HOA archives that would change everything completely. The golf course's drainage system was built over protected wetland, entirely unpermitted, violating both county and federal regulations. Karen had forged an environmental waiver years ago, hiding it from the board, to fast-track the golf course expansion. Doug had photographed the original unaltered document, proving Karen's signature didn't match the county's certified copy on file. I realized the flooding wasn't just harassment. It was Karen desperately protecting a decade-old fraud from ever surfacing. If the wetland violation became public, Karen faced massive fines, personal liability, and possible criminal charges for fraud. I met secretly with an environmental attorney, laying out everything: the forged waiver, the illegal trenches, the deliberate flooding. She warned me building a case took time, but confirmed federal wetland violations carried serious, unavoidable legal consequences. Meanwhile, Karen pushed the lawsuit forward, scheduling a hearing that could bankrupt me before my evidence was ready. I quietly requested county records on the wetland designation, careful not to alert Karen before I had everything. Doug agreed to testify, risking Karen's wrath, because his own property had flooded twice from that same drainage system. I reinforced my workshop again, installed cameras, and waited, knowing Karen would strike again before backing down. The county scheduled its surprise Beautiful Communities inspection for the same week as my lawsuit hearing. Unexpectedly, I decided the inspection was my opening, the moment truth could finally overwhelm Karen's carefully maintained image. Inspection day arrived. County officials walked the golf course while Karen beamed, certain her manicured lies would hold. I arrived with my attorney, Doug, and a folder of permits, forged documents, and photographs proving everything. I asked officials to examine the drainage grates, explaining they funneled protected wetland water illegally toward my property. An inspector's face changed instantly upon seeing standing water pooling unnaturally across supposedly dry fairway sections. Karen tried interrupting, insisting I was unstable, but Doug stepped forward, presenting his photographed original waiver document. The county's own certified copy, pulled up on a tablet, proved Karen's signature had clearly been forged. Karen's face drained of color as officials began photographing violations, citing the course for federal wetland destruction. "This is a misunderstanding," Karen stammered. but her husband's construction company name was stamped on every illegal permit. Other homeowners, emboldened, stepped forward suddenly, describing years of Karen's threats, fees, and manipulated board decisions. One woman revealed Karen had blackmailed her over a zoning issue, forcing silence about the drainage scheme for years. The inspector ordered dye poured into the drainage system, tracing water flow straight into my workshop's foundation. Dye-colored water pooled visibly behind my house within minutes. Undeniable proof broadcast live on a reporter's phone. The county inspector announced immediate cease and desist orders, freezing all golf course operations pending a full federal investigation. Karen's lawsuit against me collapsed instantly once officials confirmed my property damage stemmed directly from her illegal drainage. Security escorted Karen off her own golf course as reporters, alerted by an anonymous tip, arrived filming everything. Karen faced federal fines, resignation demands, and a criminal investigation into forgery, environmental fraud, and construction bribery. The HOA voted her out within a week, electing Doug as interim president, promising transparency and fair enforcement finally. My repaired workshop now overlooks a marshy swamp where Karen's golf course once stood, drowned by her own scheme,